Good afternoon to you. This is TT Budget Matters here on TTT and Talk City 91.1 FM. The Minister of Finance, Com Imbert, will be presenting the mid-year review of the 2019 budget in the House of Representatives this afternoon. And this is where the Minister seeks adjustments and changes to allocations and other areas in the original budget. Now, Janine Browne is outside the Parliament on Ryson Road, and she has been speaking with some MPs about their expectations. Janine, what can you tell us?
I have with me here Opposition MP Rudranath Singh, and he's going to speak to us about some of the things the opposition hopes will be addressed when the Finance Minister takes the floor this afternoon. MP, good afternoon. What are some of the things that you all are hoping will be addressed?
Well, firstly, I want to say that I would expect nothing different from the Minister of Finance and the government of Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowe. After 4 budgets and mid-year reviews and so on, there's a total disconnect between the population of Trinidad and Tobago and this government, whether it is from the point of view of unemployment, job losses, crime, the whole decadence of the health system and the education system and so on. So I will expect nothing to tell me that there is an economic turnaround. The Minister of Finance will come to the Parliament today and try to convince the population that there's a turnaround in the economy, when I know for a fact, based on the research that the opposition has been doing, and in my own constituency, joblessness, Petrotrin, for example, up till this morning, ex-employees of the company told me that they have not received their full severance benefit, and there are a number of IR issues that are outstanding in terms of agreements that was realized before the closure of Petrotrin. They have not been paid their total allowances and so on. And a medical plan is in disarray and chaos and so on. And this has put additional pressure on the public health system. So that, for example, at the San Fernando General Hospital, people still, when they go there, they still have to be in the corridor. There's a shortage of beds. Crime, for example, in my constituency, has gone totally out of control.
Mr. Singh, I want to ask you, the Finance Minister has referenced the fact that the IMF recognizes some level of growth in the economy, sort of saying that this is in fact happening, and they're also saying that the position of the opposition to kind of detract from that, is like a political move. How do you respond to that?
Well, this is not a political move. The opposition has a responsibility to analyze the government and also to point out their shortcomings, and we will continue to fulfill that role in the parliament of the country. And if the government is one of deception by what they are trying to do in terms of manipulating the economic statistics and the data to make themselves look good, when I said there's a total disconnect between what is happening on the ground and so on, we have a responsibility to call them out on what they are attempting to do.
Thank you so much, Mr. Singh, for speaking with us.
Take care.
And we were speaking there with Opposition MP Rudranath Singh, and again echoing the position of the opposition, that they're not expecting much from the Finance Minister today. And while the Minister of Finance has said things are looking around, and as we said before, that the Minister is expected to boost the production sector, Mr. Singh says this is all a political ploy, and he says the role of the opposition is to call out the government, and it's something he says they're not afraid to do and they will continue to do.
And thank you, Janine. That was Janine Browne there talking to Dr. Rudranath Singh, Couva South MP, outside of the Parliament here at TTT and Talk City 91.1. We are standing by to bring you live coverage of the mid-year review by the Finance Minister. Now, Janine has been talking to members of Parliament as they arrive for the mid-year review, ahead of the mid-year review, and she has lined up now the Minister of Housing, Edmund Dillon. Janine?
We're outside of the Parliament right now with the Housing Minister, Edmund Dillon. Minister Dillon, good afternoon. Housing is one of the things that, people are saying they suspect the Finance Minister. We're going to see some kind of boost in that area. Of course, there was a housing bond as well. So what can you tell us right now?
Well, of course, I cannot put out to the public as yet most of the intentions of the House of the Minister of Finance. That will be done in about less than an hour's time as he lays the paper in Parliament. I think when you look at housing, and the Minister of Finance has already mentioned to the public the intention with the housing bonds and so on, that will boost the housing stock and our accelerated housing program, where we provide housing for the low and middle income. We can see a boost in the housing, and which by extension will be the construction industry between now and 2020.
Minister, what do you say, because we've been speaking to some of the opposition MPs as well this morning, this afternoon outside the Parliament, and what do you say to the opposition when they say that the positive outlook that we're expecting today, based on what the Finance Minister has said, leading up to today, that it's a political move? How do you respond to that as Housing Minister?
I think the opposition has to understand that this government has by and large stabilized this economy and will continue to do so to ensure that the citizens of Trinidad will benefit from a stabilized economy that will be done to their benefit.
What do you say to people that question why not give out houses in the first 3.5 years government was in opposition? Or not give out houses, but not boost as much as we're seeing now, because that is also some of the concerns that we're hearing from the opposition.
I believe the facts would show that this government has in fact started new projects, restarted stalled projects that were stalled by the last administration, to the extent when to date, between 2015 and now, we have in fact constructed more than 3,000 houses on the market. Right now there are 2,800 units under construction as we speak. We have done new projects and we restarted all the projects that were stalled under the last administration, and that's between 2015 to now. So the record will show that we have done tremendous work in the housing sector. There's so many housing distribution that we have done over the last couple of years. You'll see that there's a lot of movement in the housing sector right now.
Thank you so much, Minister, for speaking with us.
You're most welcome.
Just speaking there with Housing Minister Edmund Dillon, and he is rejecting the position of the opposition that the possible positive outlook that we're going to see from the Finance Minister once he begins his presentation is a political ploy. Minister Dillon has said the government has been working in the housing sector and has provided a significant amount of houses since they've entered office. Now, as he said, the Finance Minister will present in just under an hour, and we'll wait to hear what are the specific developments coming out of that presentation. As I said before, we remain outside of the Parliament. We will be bringing you live updates and reporting from the Parliament, in front of the Parliament building. I am Janine Browne for TTT News.
And thanks again, Janine. Janine Browne there with Minister Edmund Dillon, the Housing Minister. And well, as you know, for those of you joining us, the Finance Minister is scheduled to present his mid-year budget review. House is scheduled to start at 1:30 this afternoon, and TTT and 91.1 FM is standing by to bring you live coverage of that presentation. Now, you just heard from Janine Browne outside of the Parliament talking to the Housing Minister. Earlier, she had a conversation with opposition MP Dr. Botiwari, a former Minister of Planning.
I'm here with the MP for Caroni Central, Dr. Botiwari, and he's going to give us, from the perspective of the opposition, what are some of the things they expect from the Finance Minister. Dr. Botiwari, good afternoon. What do you expect to hear in the chamber from the Minister today?
Well, I think the Minister will try to continue with his same narrative, which he has been carrying on for some time. I can see clearly now the economy has turned the corner, the economy has turned around, we now have a turnaround, etc. And I think that what he will try to do is to make light of the finding by BPTT that 4 of their wells that they expected natural gas from have dried up. He will make light of that and say that that is just a temporary blip and it will not affect the budget of 2019, and they will make arrangements for it in 2020 and 21. But I don't think the country would be convinced that that would be a reasonable position for the Minister of Finance to take.
What kind of position are you looking for? As you mentioned, the BPTT situation specifically, what kind of fiscal measure could you perhaps propose that you would like to see the Minister address if he does in fact touch on it?
I think that a minister that is straightforward with the population and acknowledges realities for what they are. would come to the country and say to them, listen, we were on a trajectory, we were planning certain things based on our anticipation of gas flows and financial flows from increased production. And that picture has now changed. I think he would then have to say to the country, we have to reconfigure our energy strategy. We have to rethink our natural gas-based strategy in terms of how we sustain it, but also how we make the policy choices having to do with LNG on the one hand and downstream of natural gas on the other for manufacturing enterprise. And he would then have to make the case that the time for restructuring of the economy and transformation of the economy cannot be postponed anymore, and that we must make the hard decisions in order to do that, in order to bring investment and growth and jobs outside of the energy sector by diversifying, restructuring, and transforming the economy.
Dr. Tiwari, is that necessarily a bad thing? And the government, has said in the past that, the opposition is they're wrong if you do, wrong if you don't. Now that we're seeing and we sense that the government will be looking up, is this necessarily a bad thing? And should citizens be rightly, feeling positive about the outlook, or should they still be cautious?
No, I think citizens should be wary of the outlook, because I think that we've had 3 years of what is essentially mismanagement and miscalculations about what should be done with the economy. So we find ourselves this year, 3.5 years later, fighting about whether it is 0.3 growth or 0.7 growth or 1.9 growth, when in fact the whole economy is faced with a crisis going forward. We can no longer depend on energy. We have to move away from energy dependence. We have to diversify and restructure the economy. And we need transformation in terms of investment, in terms of exports, in terms of markets, in terms of job creation. And I don't think, given what they have done for the last 3 years or so, 3.5 years, I don't think it'll be easy for them to shift at this point. I don't think they'll be able to shift the narrative, nor will I think they will be able to shift the action.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tiwari, for speaking with us. We just heard there from opposition MP Dr. Bo Tiwari, and what he's saying is what the opposition has been saying for some time. They're cautious about the government's position, that positive growth is being experienced in the economy, and for them, it comes a little too late. We remain outside of the parliament, and as we told you before, as soon as something happens in front of this building, we will be bringing it to you live. Reporting outside of the parliament building, I am Janine Browne for TTT News.